This happened about 2 months ago. I'm 35, a school teacher trying to escape the daily grind. I thought fishing at some remote lakes in the Northwoods would help clear my head. I'm not an expert fisherman, but I had all the gear and felt comfortable in the woods. I set up my camp far from civilization, in a peaceful spot. It was quiet. Just me and the trees. The first night was calm. I cooked some beans over the campfire. As I glanced at the lake, something caught my eye. There were strange ripples on the surface. The air was still, so I figured it was just fish swimming. It felt odd, but I brushed off the feeling. The days went by, and I kept fishing. Then things began to change. I found an old watch on the shore by my campsite. It was rusty and looked like it hadn't been touched in years. It struck me as cool at first, but something felt wrong. Maybe someone lost it a long time ago. I kept it anyway. I thought it might make a good story. Then, the toys started showing up. I found a small, dirty stuffed bear one morning. Later, I found a toy car. I had no idea how they got there. They didn't belong to me. I thought perhaps kids had come out here in the past, but the more I found, the more uneasy I felt. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That evening, I sat on the dock, feeling the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I swore I felt eyes on me. I looked around, but there was nothing. Just trees and water. I sat there for a long time, debating whether to stay another night. My heart was racing, and I felt cold, even though it was summer. I thought about packing up and leaving early, but I had come this far. That night, I heard something. It sounded like whispers or maybe laughter. It echoed off the water, curdling the air. I told myself it was just the wind, but I started to sweat. I ended up staying awake most of the night, listening to the sounds of the forest. When I left the next morning, I felt like I had to look back. I wanted to convince myself it was just my mind playing tricks. But I couldn't shake the memory of the lake, the toys, and the whispers. Were they signs? Was I imagining it all? I was unsure. The whole experience haunted me, leaving me with more questions than answers. As I reached my car, I heard someone say, "Why are you here?" I turned around quickly. There was no one there. My gut twisted. I got in my car, heart pounding, and left that place behind. I still think about it. The lake, the toys, the whispers haunt me. I don't know if I'll ever go fishing there again. The quiet now feels heavy. I tried to shake off the unease of my fishing trip. For days, I kept myself busy with work, but the memories clung to me like a heavy mist. Every time I heard a sound outside my window, I froze, expecting the whispers to bleed into my life. I couldn't let it go. I thought about going back for the closure I needed. It was just a lake, right? On the weekend, I made my decision. I packed my gear again, heart racing with every item I placed in the car. I was nervous, but I told myself it was just a fishing trip. I needed to confront whatever I felt back there. As I drove north, memories of that old watch and the unsettling toys flooded my mind. Why had I collected them? I knew deep down that I was looking for reasons to dismiss the creeping fear. I wanted to believe it was all explainable. When I arrived, the sun was setting behind a distant line of trees. I took a deep breath, trying to embrace the calm of the wilderness. But as I set up my camp and looked at the lake, the air felt electric. The surface was smooth, reflecting the colors of dusk like glass. I forced myself to stay, determined to fish and enjoy the tranquility. As night fell, I lit the fire and cooked my dinner. But the stillness was different this time. I could almost taste the tension in the air. It wasn't just peaceful, it felt alive in a way I couldn't describe. I tried to focus on my meal, but I couldn't shake the feeling someone or something was watching. Then, I heard a splash. It broke the silence, followed by hushed tones that sent a shiver down my spine. My heart hammered in my chest. I stood up and walked to the edge of the dock. The moonlight cast eerie shadows across the water, and I squinted, searching for any sign of movement. That's when I saw it. A small figure bobbing in the water, a faded stuffed bear, floating away from me. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't possible. It was the same bear I found before, yet it was now splashing toward the shore. My instinct screamed to turn back, to leave. But curiosity got the better of me, and I started to step closer. I never thought I would approach that bear again. I left it on the shore last time, but now it was back. As I reached out to grab it, the whispers grew louder, swirling around me. They weren't just echoes anymore, they felt like voices calling out, drawing me in. I froze. Something wasn't right. I could hear distinct phrases amongst the whispers. "Come play, and stay with us," surrounded me. I stumbled back, my hand retracting at once. My instincts kicked in. I turned away, but as I did, I caught a glimpse of movement in the trees. I wasn't alone. There were figures lurking just at the edge of the forest. I couldn't make them out, but I felt their presence like a tangible weight. My pulse quickened. I needed to leave. I backed away from the water, heart racing, and the air felt thick. Just as I turned to run, the whispers reached a fever pitch. "Why did you come back?" I bolted for my tent, adrenaline surging. I scrambled inside, locking the door behind me, just as the laughter echoed into the night. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone. Keeping the light steady, I peered outside, breathless. But the night had gone heavy and quiet again. I couldn't let my guard down. I knew I had to figure this out before it was too late. I had to confront the strange occurrences that were waiting just outside my tent. Then the ground shook beneath me, and I heard the soft sounds of footsteps approaching. The footsteps grew louder, a slow and deliberate rhythm that sent fresh waves of panic crashing over me. I pressed my back to the fabric of the tent, hardly daring to breathe. Every creak of the woods outside felt amplified. I strained my ears, searching for any clue about who or what was out there. Then, almost as if in answer, a voice broke through the stillness, soft but unmistakable. "Why did you leave us?" I shivered at the words, their meaning piercing through my mind like an ice pick. They were playful but laced with sadness, and they echoed the whispers I heard before. I felt like a marionette pulled by invisible strings, my body frozen in place, my mind racing for a response. "Who are you?" I managed to whisper, though I doubted anyone could hear me. Another voice answered, laced with laughter. "We just wanted to play." That was enough to set me into motion. I couldn't stay here. My instincts screamed for me to run, but to where? The darkness beyond my tent felt like a living being, pressing against me, thick and suffocating. I slung on my backpack and held my phone tightly, its flashlight my only guide. I unzipped the tent, ready to bolt. The cool night air hit my face. To my relief, the footsteps had stopped, swallowed by the shadows. I stepped out, heart racing as I scanned my surroundings. There was nothing. Just trees, the lake, and darkness. Nerves tingling with withheld terror, I turned in a slow circle, half expecting figures to leap out at me. My mind clawed back to the bear in the water, and for a second, I stood rooted in place. Maybe if I could just retrieve that bear, I could make sense of everything, get to the bottom of this madness. I took a tentative step toward the dock, straining to keep my breathing steady. But as I reached the edge of the docks, something caught my eye. Light. A dim glow flickered at the water's surface. Carefully, I approached, the flashlight trembling in my hands. The lake was deeper than I remembered, shrouded in darkness, but even through the shadows, I could see shapes rising and falling with the gentle currents. The glow intensified, revealing a path made of shimmering lights leading out into the lake. It felt inviting and curious, like a siren's call. I moved closer, captivated, then halted. My instinct kicked in, shouting that this was a bad idea. Those lights seemed to pulse, beckoning me to follow. "Play with us," the chorus of voices chimed in unison. The sense of urgency built within me. I couldn't dismiss this. I needed answers. But before I could act, I heard a stiff crack of a branch behind me. I turned quickly, the flashlight sweeping across the tree-line. My heart sank as the darkness seemed to shift, figures moved just out of my reach. I could finally make out their forms, childlike silhouettes, their eyes glowing faintly, watching me with intense curiosity. I stumbled back in fright, instinctively clutching my phone as if it could protect me. "Leave me alone!" I shouted, my voice raw with fear. They stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, as if surrounding me. Suddenly, the ground shook again beneath me, more violently this time. Whatever was happening, it felt like it was about to explode. I had to get away from the dock, away from them. I wasn't just confronting my fears any longer, I was stepping into a nightmare. As I turned to run, I caught one last glimpse of the glowing figures. They smiled in a way that sent a chill down my spine. Just then, the lights flickered out. Everything went dark. I stumbled forward into the darkness, panic gripping me. I had no idea where I was going, just that I had to escape. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, drowning out every sound of the night. I fumbled with my phone, desperate for any sliver of light to guide me. As I turned, I crashed into something solid, a tree trunk, rough and unyielding. I steadied myself, pushing off and trying to regain my focus. I forced myself to take slow, deep breaths. That didn't help, all I heard was the silence wrapping around me like a thick blanket. That's when I heard the laughter again. It cut through the darkness, light and airy, as if the very sound was weaving itself into my mind. I pressed my back against the tree, trying to calm the storm of fear inside me. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, my voice trembling. "Join us," came the reply, that childish tone now tainted with an edge that sent shivers down my spine. I took a few hurried steps away from the tree, scanning the vast expanse around me. Nothing. I was utterly alone, or so I thought. But the laughter didn't fade, it seemed to surround me, echoing from every direction. I felt like prey being toyed with by an unseen predator. Desperate, I glanced over my shoulder at the dock, hoping for a return of the lights, anything that might help me understand. But it remained shrouded in darkness, a ship lost at sea. My fingers shook as I tapped the flashlight on my phone, but the screen remained black. Cursing under my breath, I pressed the power button repeatedly. Still nothing. I was losing it. I dropped to my knees, scrambling through my backpack, searching for anything useful. I found a small lighter and flicked it to life. The orange flame flickered against the night, casting long shadows around me. I could see the shapes again, those same figures, just beyond the reach of the light, their eyes reflecting the glow with a predatory hunger. They hadn't moved, but I could feel their anticipation, as if they were waiting for me to make a decision. "Why don't you come here?" one of them called. I recognized it now, it was the soft voice from before. "We just want to play." Behind me, the ground trembled once more. I turned toward it, fearing what might come next. The earth felt alive, thrumming with energy. I remembered the shimmering lights, the call of the lake. My heart raced. What was happening? Then I noticed something beneath the water, a glimmer, a flash of silver. My breath caught as I recognized it, a fish, but not just any fish. It was unnaturally large, with iridescent scales shining even in the dark. More unreal than frightening, it seemed to drift closer, as if pulled by an invisible current. For a moment, the laughter faded as all eyes turned toward that strange creature. But soon, the tension thickened again, filled with a mix of wonder and dread. It would take only the slightest nudge. The flickering flame in my hand was all I had left, but I felt the pull. "No! You can't take it!" I shouted, standing up, ready to face them all. But I was still surrounded by darkness. That's when I realized, the figures were stepping closer, the laughter resuming, mixing with something else, a whisper, fragile and insistent. "Don't you want to know?" I wasn't ready for what was coming next. Just as I turned to run again, something cold wrapped around my ankle, dragging me back into the shadows. The cold grip around my ankle tightened, and I gasped as I was pulled back into the darkness. My heart raced, and my mind spiraled into a frenzy. The laughter grew louder, more sinister, as I struggled to free myself from whatever was holding me captive. I kicked and twisted, but it felt like the shadows themselves were entwining around me. Panic surged through me like an electric shock. "Let me go!" I shouted, but my voice barely pierced through their gleeful chorus. With a sudden jolt, the hold released. I stumbled forward, falling onto the damp ground. I took off running, my feet pounding on the soft earth. Images of the shimmering lake flooded my mind, its beauty now twisted by fear. I had to get away. I darted past trees, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The laughter followed, carefree and haunting. It echoed through the woods, mocking my desperate flight. I stumbled over roots and rocks, pushing myself faster. I didn't know where I was going, but anywhere was better than here. Then I made a mistake. I turned back to see if they were still there. The flickering flame in my hand illuminated their faces for a split second. Those eyes wide, too bright, almost shimmering like the fish, held something monstrous behind their childlike demeanor. I shuddered and spun around, my breath hitching in my throat. I ran blindly until I broke through the tree-line and skidded to a halt. The lake lay before me, stretched out in all its eerie tranquility, but I could feel it pulling me in. I turned to check behind me, half expecting to see them emerging from the woods, but the trees stood silent now. I needed to think. My hands trembled as I tried to strike the lighter again, but the flame sputtered and dimmed, almost like the briefest sigh of defeat. I tucked it away, biting my lip, feeling the distinct weight of dread settle on my chest. Suddenly, a splash broke through the silence. I whipped around to see the giant fish from before, its massive form surfacing again. The moonlight caught its scales, illuminating its silver body in a stunning yet terrifying display. But what froze me was the way it stared back, as if it knew me or was somehow aware. Instinctively, I took a step back, and all at once, the laughter returned, louder and sharper. I thought of the figures from the woods, each of them surrounding me, eyes glinting with excitement. They had drawn me here for a reason. The fish was no mere creature. In that moment, pieces began to fall into place. Gritting my teeth, I focused on the water, how it swirled and shifted. Was it just the fish? Or was it something larger? I could almost hear a voice again, but this time, it spoke in a rush of bubbles and splashes. "Come closer," it beckoned softly, merging with the laughter. "Discover your true self." I backed away, confusion battling against the rising fear. Words crashed against one another in my mind, but one thing became clear: the lake was a trap, and I was losing control. That's when I saw it. A pale, outstretched hand breaking the surface, beckoning me to join. I froze, heart pounding, as the weight of my decision loomed over me. What had I stumbled into? Would I join them in their game, or could I break free? The hand retreated back into the depths, but the laughter didn't fade. Instead, it escalated, wrapping tighter around me until I had no choice but to face whatever awaited in the dark waters ahead. I felt the weight of the water pressing against my chest as I stood at the edge of the lake, staring into its murky depths. The hand had vanished, but the unease lingered in the air like the scent of damp earth after a storm. My surroundings had become alien. The trees, once welcoming, now loomed ominously. I was paralyzed. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but I couldn't tear my gaze away from the water. Something was below the surface, waiting. The laughter echoed through my mind, bouncing back and forth, mingling with the splashes of the large fish. I fought to catch my breath, feeling trapped between the urge to escape and the temptation to step into the water. Then, out of the blue, a voice surged forth, sharp and clear, cutting through the chaotic whispers in my mind. "Help us." The plea was soft yet urgent. I blinked, hardly believing what I had just heard. Who was asking for help? Was it linked to the figures in the woods or the fish that watched me? My heart raced again. "Who are you?" I managed to call out, my voice trembling. The laughter momentarily subsided, replaced by an unsettling silence. I felt the ground beneath me shift, almost like it was urging me to take a step forward. It was then that a shadow darted beneath the surface, moving quickly, too quickly. Without thinking, I staggered backward, almost losing my balance. I rubbed my eyes, hoping I'd imagined it, but the water now bubbled, and the silver scales broke the surface again. This time, however, they were accompanied by figures in the water. Shapes emerged, moving with fluid grace and purpose. They glided closer, 3 faces turned up towards me, eyes wide and glimmering. Their expressions mirrored curiosity, mingled with something darker, something almost predatory. I recognized them now. They were the same figures from the woods, the ones with luminous eyes and mischievous smiles. "Join us," they chorused, the refrain inviting but laced with menace. My instinct was to scream, to turn and flee, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. I felt rooted to the spot as they beckoned me closer, their hands cracking through the surface to invite me into their world. I could see now, the lake wasn't just a body of water but a portal of sorts. Each ripple felt like a whisper, each splash an enticing call. I stood at the crossroads of fear and curiosity, battling within as I clenched my fists. I had to make a decision. Then, a sudden commotion broke my concentration. The fish splashed wildly, thrashing through the water as if agitated. In its frenzy, it surfaced again, revealing something slick and shimmering dangling from its mouth. I squinted to see it clearly. A piece of fabric? No, it was a shirt. My breath caught. It looked like mine, but how could that be? Just then, the laughter flared up again, overwhelming. It felt as if the lake itself was laughing at me, taunting me for being so close. I stumbled back, the revelation crashing over me like a wave. I realized what they were offering. It wasn't an escape but a lure. Just as I turned to run, the surface of the lake rippled violently, as if warning me, and I heard that voice again, more frantic this time. "Help us, before it's too late." I spun around but didn't know what to believe. My heart raced as the shadowy figures surged closer, and their laughter filled the night air with an unsettling urgency. My instincts screamed that I needed to escape, but now, a new feeling stirred within me, a determination to uncover the truth behind the warning. I pivoted and began to sprint along the water's edge, each step sending vibrations back through me, knowing I would face whatever it was that lingered just under the surface, even if it meant finding out what had happened to that shirt. As I glanced behind, I saw the reflections of their eyes glowing in the darkness, laughter melding into echoes of my own heartbeat, urging me to go deeper into the mystery. Everything around me blurred into a frenzy as I ran along the shoreline. I could feel the wet earth beneath my feet, squelching and shifting. The moon hung low, casting a cold glow, while the laughter echoed behind me, haunting and relentless. I didn't look back, but I could hear their splashes grow louder, like a chorus beckoning me to return. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my ankle. I stumbled and fell to the ground. Looking down, I saw a thick root snaking out of the ground, as if trying to hold me back. "This place wants to keep me," I thought, panic surging again. I jerked my foot free and scrambled up, my breath coming in gasps. "Help us." That voice rang out again, clearer this time, and it sent chills coursing through my veins. Whoever was speaking needed me, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was playing into their game. My shirt had resurfaced, and there was something sinister about how they knew me. I sprinted towards the nearest tree, desperate for cover. I crouched behind its wide trunk, listening. The laughter faded slightly, but I could hear the figures splashing and whispering just out of view. I pressed my back against the bark and closed my eyes, trying to gather my thoughts. "What do you want?" I shouted, more to gather my courage than to elicit a response. "Leave me alone." My voice echoed into the darkness. The replies were muffled, like they were sharing secrets under the water. I felt invisible eyes on me, watching and waiting. Then, a shadow flickered along the water's edge. I peered out from behind the tree and saw one of them emerge, one of the figures. He stood at the lake's edge, glistening with water, the moonlight reflecting off his skin. I felt my heart drop. It was one of the playful faces from earlier, but there was no joy in his demeanor now. His eyes, once curious, were now filled with something far more serious. "Please," his voice was low but urgent, "you have to help us stop him." I blinked, hardly able to comprehend what he was saying. "Stop who?" I asked, my heart racing. "The one who took us." His voice quivered. "He's coming for you next." Before I could respond, he lunged back into the water, splashing violently. Panic surged again, and I tightened my jaw. I had to do something. I could either run or confront whatever this threat was. My shirt still hung in my mind as the turning point, a reminder that this wasn't just about them. The laughter resumed, mixed with the sound of a deeper splashing, as if something larger was joining the chaos in the water. I took a deep breath, summoning every fragment of courage I could find. Then I stepped out from behind the tree, ready to face whatever waited in the darkness. Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from my sister. "Where are you? Call me." The urgency of the moment clashed with my instinct to respond. I hesitated, but before I could reach for my phone, the lake exploded with a surge of water, splashing higher than before. My heart raced as the figures in the water yelled in unison, "Go!" The lake roared. There was no more time. I bolted. Every instinct within me screamed to get away from the water's edge, from the chaos, from whatever lay beneath the glistening surface. The laughter still danced mockingly in the air, but now it felt like a foreboding. I sprinted toward the thick underbrush, desperate to distance myself from the unseen threat. Branches whacked against my arms and legs, tearing at my shirt as I pushed through. I couldn't stop thinking of those figures, the one who had pleaded for help, and the chill that hung in the air. They were trapped, and somehow I was linked to their fate. "Help us!" echoed in my mind, pulling me back even as I ran forward. But who was he? What did they mean by, "stop him"? I made it to a clearing beyond the trees, and for a moment, I felt a rush of relief as the noise faded. But then I noticed something: footprints. Large, wet prints, stark against the damp earth leading back toward the lake. I edged closer, dread pooling in my stomach. I crouched down and traced the muddy trail with my fingers. The footprints ended in a chaotic pattern, as if something had slipped and struggled. My heart thumped wildly in my chest. I took a step back, only to catch sight of something out of the corner of my eye. There, illuminated by the moonlight, was a discarded item, a pendant shaped like a fish, its surface glimmering with the same iridescence I had seen on the figure's skin. I picked it up, fingers trembling, and turned it over. Engraved on the back were initials I recognized. My initials. How did it end up here? Fear coiled tightly in my throat. I dropped it as if it was burning, the world tilting around me. It was like a connection revealing a truth I was not ready to face. But there was no avoiding it. And then it hit me: the laughter was no longer fading. It was drawing closer, filled with urgency, as if they were ready to make another move. I stumbled backward, adrenaline pushing me into flight mode once again. I wanted to turn and run, but the noise intensified. The figures were back, now spilling into the clearing like a pack of wild animals drawn by a scent. They stared with wide eyes, a mixture of pleading and frenzy sweeping across their faces. I turned on my heel and raced back into the safety of the trees, but the laughter turned into shrieks. "We must go," they called, their voices overlapping. "Don't let him find you." Every bit of my logical mind shouted for me to keep running, but something anchored me. I couldn't abandon them, not without understanding. As I rounded a tree trunk, I stopped short. Out of the shadows emerged a silhouette, tall and looming. The air stilled, and I froze, heart pounding against my ribcage. The figure stepped forward, revealing sharp, glistening eyes that seemed to absorb the moonlight. Then everything went dark as a large object surged past me, crashing through the underbrush and disappearing into the night. A surge of menacing laughter erupted, churning my stomach as I processed the shadows around me shifting. I had no idea who or what was truly behind this haunting. But one thing was clear, I needed to know, or I might end up tied to that lake forever. The darkness swallowed me, and I sprinted further into the trees, heart racing as the laughter faded, replaced by a shadow of silence. Each step felt like a betrayal of my instinct to flee. I wanted to forget the figures, the pendant, and whatever lurked behind me, but curiosity gnawed at me, pushing me forward. I stumbled into another clearing, this one smaller and ringed with ancient trees whose branches twisted like gnarled fingers. The moonlight broke through, illuminating the ground, and I caught my breath. But it wasn't just me here. Scattered across the grassy floor were more items: bones, trinkets, remnants of something lost, and all eerily familiar. Among them was a bracelet, the kind my sister used to wear. A chill gripped me. How could it be here? I picked it up, its once shiny surface dulled, tarnished by tarnished memories. I dropped it immediately, a wave of panic cascading through me. What once felt like a simple night had morphed into something much darker. Footsteps echoed behind me. They were not the urgent, frantic steps of the figures, but ominous and slow. I turned to see the silhouette from before re-emerging, this time larger than it seemed, moving with purpose. My pulse hammered in my ears. "Help us!" screamed a distant voice again. The frantic cries from the figures filled my mind, but I couldn't tell which was more terrifying, the voice of my sister or the beast that now stalked the perimeter of the clearing. I darted for cover, ducking behind a thick trunk just as the figure leapt into the clearing. Moonlight glinted off its sinister features, and I finally caught a glimpse of it. Its face was a grotesque blend of human and fish, with scales running down its neck, a mouth filled with jagged teeth, and eyes glazed with an unsettling hunger. "Where are you?" it hissed, the voice scratched at my sanity. It searched, scanning the shadows, and I choked back my breath, praying it wouldn't find me. Then, a high-pitched scream pierced the night. The figures came rushing into the clearing again, but this time they were smeared in mud and desperation. They looked between me and the creature, their expressions twisted with fear. The laughter returned, darker than before, shaking the ground beneath us. "Grab it! We can't let him take you too!" one of them yelled, pointing at me. Panic surged through me. From them? From the creature? I didn't understand, but I didn't want to find out. I bolted from my hiding place, desperate to escape. I felt the presence of the beast behind me, its breath hot on my back. The figures swirled around me, calling out, yelling my name, urging me onward, but my vision blurred with terror. I needed to find a way out. I had to escape this nightmare. But then I tripped over something hard and tumbled onto the ground, my hands crashing against the dirt. That's when I saw it, a glimmer in the mud, just like the pendant and the bracelet. A small, ornate box, embedded deep below the surface. I reached for it, as if it held the answers to everything, but before I could claim it, a growl reverberated from behind. I turned slowly, and as the creature loomed over me, it spoke chilling words that silenced the world around us. "You shouldn't have come." In that moment, I realized I might have dug too deep. And the consequences were just beginning. The growl echoed in my chest, a terrifying warning that resonated deep within me. I lay still, heart pounding as I stared up at the creature looming above, its exaggerated features warped by the moonlight. I instinctively reached for the box buried in the mud, hoping it might hold some hidden power or knowledge that would save me. Instead, it felt cold, unyielding, as if the earth itself was trying to keep it hidden. The figures swirled around the periphery, their whispers curdling into anxious cries. "Don't let him take you." One of them screamed, eyes wild with fear. "He's hungry." Time slowed. I pushed myself off the ground, adrenaline surging through my veins. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, my voice trembling in the cool night air. The creature's eyes glimmered like obsidian in the dark, its mouth curling into a smirk that sent chills down my spine. "Your choice, little one," it hissed, its voice simultaneously a soft caress and a threat. "Join us or join him." My mind raced, but my body was frozen. The box was still there. Was there something in it that I didn't understand? I reached for it again, desperate to open it, as hope began to eclipse my fear. If this was a portal or a binding key, maybe I could set them free or find a way to confront this monster. "Just touch the box," one of the figures urged, their voice trembling. "You have to." Before I could move, the creature lunged forward, dark tendrils stretching from its form like smoke, reaching for me. I dove to the side, tumbling onto the damp earth, the box slipping from my grasp. I caught a glimpse of its engraved surface, a single word I hadn't seen before: release. Release? I whispered to myself, but there was no time to dwell on it. The creature was circling now, an incessant predator. "Grab the box. You can help us," another figure called. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing as I lunged for the box buried in the mud again. My fingers scraped against the surface, and I pulled it free with a surge of will. The whispers intensified, surrounding me like a storm, but there was a clarity rising above it all. "Open it!" they cried. I hesitated, unsure of what would happen next. But the creature's growl grew louder, fire in its eyes that urged me onward. Without thinking, I flipped the box open. The darkness inside burbled forth, mingling with the light of the moon, filling the air with shimmering particles that danced around me. And then I saw them, shadows of children trapped within the depths of the box. Faces twisted in perpetual longing, memories obscured but familiar. I felt the weight of their sorrow pressing against my chest. "No!" I gasped, understanding washing over me. They weren't just figures, they were lost souls, captives of this creature, and it needed me to choose: join its ranks or help them escape. The creature lunged again, closer this time. "You'll become one with us, or you'll perish here," it rasped, venom dripping from its words. I could feel the energy surrounding me, crawling along my skin. With every ounce of strength I had, I shouted, "I choose to release them." The words erupted from me, igniting the air. A powerful surge pulsed from the box, illuminating everything in a brilliant white light. The laughter transformed into screams, mingled with the laughter of the children, and I felt the earth tremble. The shadows began to rise from the box, flowing out like smoke, merging with the light. "No!" The creature roared, its form flickering as it tried to grasp the figures fleeing from its grasp. But the light intensified, swirling into a cyclone of energy that enveloped the clearing, whipping through the trees. It was overwhelming, a wave of freedom, casting aside the weight of despair. I shut my eyes against the brilliance. It felt like rebirth, like breathing after being submerged underwater. When I finally opened my eyes, everything was changed. The clearing was empty, save for the box that lay still in the mud, a once dark, ominous object now teeming with gentle light. The looming creature had vanished, leaving no trace of its fear, laughter, or threat. Just silence. An eerie stillness hung in the air. My heart raced in the quiet. I took a step back, breathless and unsteady. I could hardly believe it. Had they escaped? Were they free? But questions lingered like shadows. What had truly happened at the lake? Who were the figures? And the lines between the supernatural and the natural had blurred too much for comfort. As I stood there, pieces of my own past flickered vividly, just out of reach, the pendant and the bracelet creeping back into my thoughts. Had I truly released them, or had I accepted some fate of my own, unknowingly entwined? I took a deep breath as the night sky blanketed the world above and walked away from the clearing. The echoes of the lake followed me, soft and distant, leaving behind questions that I might never answer, but a growing resolve to never return to the Northwoods. I left the memories beneath the surface, with the understanding that some mysteries belong to the dark depths, forever unseen.